What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets-Haber. We're going to be talking a little NBA tonight. I almost Sheets. I didn't make the six figures as you predicted last night, but I actually had a chance to win the 65 free max, the $50, the slam on FanDuel. Just a little died out late, but ended up with a decent-ish night, so I can't be too upset about it. How did you do? And I understand you're not feeling so great, so I'm sorry. I'll try and help you.
Yeah, no, I feel like crap. But yeah, last night my big thing was getting, I don't know how I even got to him, but like 40% of this Daniel Gafford character, who like nobody played, who did really really nicely, and that kind of get me to even. The rest of the stuff didn't really work out for me. So, but thankfully the Gafford kind of like kept some of the lineups afloat. And yeah, we're ready to get back into it again today.
All right, well, let's jump into it. Why don't you pull your screen up and we can go from there?
Yeah, hold on. Oh, so I wanted to announce something. So I don't know if you caught this, but I can't promise I'm going to do this all the time. But like for those of you who didn't know, I mean, one of the things that I kind of do on the side, I do these pick sixes with horse racing, a couple of times a week. And what I decide is, when I do the analysis for the horse racing stuff, whether I play the pick six or not, if I do come up with like some good values, I'll do like a quick video to see and kind of tell you where I would bet if I was betting a horse race. Again, I don't know if anybody actually plays or they're interested in it, but what I did one today and I put it up there. It's free and it's under the horse racing section and it's in the YouTube channel. And if I get feedback on it, that people want me to remember to do it, I mean, I'll just do it from time to time. Just kind of expanding the content offering a little bit.
Love it. That's awesome. I mean, by the way, for those of you out there who don't know, Sheets is really good at this stuff, so you might want to listen to him when it comes to this horse racing stuff.
Yeah, and that's what I said too.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to get into the?
Yeah. Well, I guess we could start it off with the first game. I mean, look, Steph is going to be completely unowned tonight. I understand why, but whenever he's unowned, I'm always going to have some interest in him. Draymond seems very fair to me, the price. Wiggins is probably on the outside looking in for me. Jordan Poole is interesting, but I like Steph and I like Poole, especially if I don't play Steph. But I don't think you need to go here. Those are the first guys who I came up with, and I think if Jared Allen plays, he's way too cheap. I'm sorry, not way too cheap. He's way too much upside to ignore him in this matchup, and he's not going to be owned. And then you get back into the Rubio Garland thing. One of the I don't know, better decisions. It's hard to be results oriented. But I did switch, about 15% of my Rubio. I had Rubio in about 50% at one point, and I switched about 15% of that over to Darius Garland, who they were the exact same price. Darius Garland ended up with 45 last night, which was really nice. So and he was 2% owned, where Rubio was 40% owned. So that little thing helped me in the tournaments that I did do well in. So I actually like the idea of maybe taking a shot with Garland. He's probably not going to be overlooked tonight entirely. But it really depends on whether Jared Allen plays, my level of interest in this game.
Yeah, I guess people were asking, why do you think that Curry would be so low? And just because he's, people are not used to seeing the 11-8 price, and it's been going on with a lot of these high price guys. I mean, they priced Giannis at 12.5.
5% Giannis yesterday felt pretty good for a while. I mean, he was just getting a number, you know what I mean? Put up the biggest game on the slate. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, yeah, but like if you play that, I mean, like what do you need, really out of a 12.5 guy? Because it depends on the slate.
Yesterday you needed just 60 probably.
Was he in the optimal?
I don't know if he was. I don't know. Well, optimal. We use the word optimal wrong. Like we always say optimal, but you mean?
Is he in the winning lineup?
I don't know. He was only 5% of the lineup, so the odds of him being in the winning lineup were pretty small. Even if he did, you know what I mean? You go. So if you had the highest scoring player on a slate where there's that much value as there was yesterday, I think that you're always going to be a good play either way. So I don't think you need to get that production there. Go ahead. Sorry, Shoots.
Yeah, so I don't really have all too much in this game. Nothing really standing out as such a great value on the smaller side. On the more expensive side, not much either. I mean, I don't really want to play Curry at that price. And what's his name? I think of the best play that you mentioned, at least showing up for me, is probably Garland. But like you said, I mean, he'll probably get a little more ownership, and he's up at the 6,800 now on DraftKings. So I'm probably going to be off of this.
And I like Rubio, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that as well, but I actually don't feel as much off. I don't think I like the air taking a stand. I actually like this game because I don't like the other games, some of the other games very much, and this is one of them. Okay, Sheets, you want to start off with what you're thinking with Miami and Washington, because I still can't decide what to do with these guys.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, I don't know who's playing for Miami. I never do, so it's kind of hard to say. I will say that what's his name? Daniel Gafford had a big game last night. As I mentioned, I mean, he got minutes. He was 9 for 12 from the field, all dunks. I mean, it's not like he ran good. I mean, he just dunked the ball a bunch of times. And got some rebounds, got some blocks. He had a nice game. I don't know if I'll go back to him, but I mean, certainly worth thinking about. And then Miami, as I kind of like jokingly suspected, I don't know how many minutes they gave him 6 minutes, 7 minutes. How much did Haslam play last night? It was kind of fun to see. Adonis Haslam on the court.
I didn't notice. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed it. I just saw him. So, I mean, it wasn't much, but let me see what he ended up getting. Yeah, 7 minutes. Yeah, that was good to see him on the court. He's like 1,000 years old. So you got to wait and see who's playing for Miami. Same story as always. I really have no idea. The one guy that's showing up for me right now on the Washington side is Raul Neto at 3,200. And that's pretty much all I got for you.
Yeah, so we have no Spencer Dinwiddie, and I think that's going to open up one of Nato or Holiday. The natural thing seems like it might be Holiday. When Beal's out, they've been starting Holiday. I also think that there's some room for Avdia, who's sort of coming into his own a little bit, a guy who I always sort of liked as a player, but I don't really know what his ceiling is as a player, but he's sort of, showing to be, I mean, he's pretty solid. I mean, he put up 25 fantasy points in the last game, going 2 for 9 because he can rebound. And, he has back-to-back, he just missed a double-double by a point, but, a double-double the night before that when he put up 32. I think he's kind of interesting, and he's starting to get a little bit more run. So I can get up on board with Avdia, one of Holiday or Neto, whichever one is starting, I would probably side with, but I also would probably take a tournament shot if on the one that wasn't, especially if Neto wasn't starting. I would like a tournament shot on him a little better. Bradley Beal's showing up as a strong play because of these, the injury, or not the injury, the Dinwiddie sitting out. So that's kind of interesting to me. I wouldn't usually talk through these on like 15 game sites. I wouldn't be talking so much through this stuff. It's just worth noting tonight. Jimmy Butler was obviously really good chalk last night. Tyler Hero let a lot of us down. If the same situation were to present itself tonight, I would be right back on. I don't think it will. I think they're going to play I think it actually might flip. You might see Butler sit and have Bam and Lowry, or maybe just Lowry. We'll see. It's really hard to rate the side, as you mentioned. But I definitely have some interest in some of these. I will have interest in some of these Heat, and if people actually do feel afraid to go back to Tyler Hero, if these guys if anybody's out, I don't think they will be, but if they are, I will eat up all the Hero ownership. I'm happy to. So we're just gonna have to wait and see on that one. It's too hard to know without Bam. With Bam as a question mark, I do think Lowry is definitely going to play. I just think he was resting on the front end of a back-to-back.
Could be.
All right, you want to start off the Clippers in Memphis? I have to grab something at the door.
Yeah, sure. Clippers, Memphis. The first guy. Okay, so 2 guys show up at opposite ends of the spectrum. One is Paul George at 11K. He's expensive, but everybody's expensive, so it is somewhat relative. He's been doing nothing but good things. 11K is rough, but still, he's still been performing really, really well. And even if he gets, I don't know, he can still get 60 in this spot pretty, I don't say easily, but 60 certainly well within Paul George's range of outcomes. And then there's a value piece on LA too, who I was talking to you about him yesterday to ask you what you thought of him, and I ended up not playing him. And that would be what's his name? Different game. Sorry, I still thought that Patrick Beverly was on the Clippers. So you have Paul George at 11K, you have Morant at 10K. Both seem somewhat expensive, but like I said, all the big studs are just expensive. So, you know, I think that Paul George will be 15% max. I think Ja will be 10%, you know, at those prices. Maybe those guys are worth a shot here. With respect to any value I'm looking at, Zubac still remains somewhat cheap at 5,100. Adams remains cheap at 4,600. Bain looks good. Naz Reid again, not different game. Sorry. So Steven Adams, Desmond Bain, and are the values for the Memphis side, and that'll do.
Yeah, it's this is a high-paced game. You know, the scoring projections. I do want to point out something. I think that everybody out there would be wise to just be betting the unders in most of these games these days. They're letting them play so much more physical, and I have to do some research before I figure out what the exact studies are. Like, but it does feel like most games are hitting the under, like significantly hitting the under. So I just wanted to throw that out there because this has got a high total, but I actually think this is a game that should play with pretty good pace. On the Clippers side, well, I'd love to know about Terrence Mann because with no Batum, they're all in play. Like they're all excellent plays. I have Zubac, Kennard, Mann. I would want at least one of those guys, maybe two. Or you could play Hartenstein on the other side, on the the flip of it. Reggie Jackson is affordable and solid play. If Mann is out, Bledsoe is even a solid play at 5,800. So we really need to know. Terrence Mann actually does affect quite a bit. But I think Bledsoe might even be in play a little bit anyway, but I don't think it's kind of probably a little thin. I like Paul George. I like this game. I think a game stack here makes some sense. I like the Steven Adams call. I think that's a really, really solid play. Desmond Bain is too cheap. And, you could just run literally this whole game and stack it a bunch of different ways. I like the Bain, Adams. I probably will not be as high on Kyle Anderson, although he keeps, putting up decent-ish games. He's not one I like for tournaments. D'Anthony Melton's going to lose some minutes, but always carries some upside with him. So probably not the right situation for him. And I don't think people are going to play Ja or Jaren Jackson. So either one of those guys with these other pieces with Paul George.
You put it underneath.
What's that?
Hold on a second. Someone's on. I'm with you.
Yeah, I was just saying that it does seem like this is the game you want to stack, and all these cheap pieces I just think are really, really easy to enter. I would rank them, I guess. Bain, my level of interest anyway. Bain, Adams on the Memphis side. Then I would even consider taking a shot in Dylan Brooks, but I'd probably go Jaren Jackson next, and then Ja. On the Clippers side, it depends on Mann, but if Mann plays, Mann is my number one on the Clippers side. If Mann doesn't play, Kennard, it would go Zubac, Jackson, Bledsoe, and Kennard are going to be interesting. I don't know. I have to revisit that one, but we'll see about Mann later. We should know hopefully before lock on this one. They've been pretty good about an hour before games. It's really right after. It's when you get into the 7 o'clock or 8-10 Eastern games that gets tricky. But I really like that game a lot.
Okay.
Do you want to start off with San Antonio and Minnesota?
Yes, as I was kind of alluding to just before. So I was back and forth on Patrick Beverly last night, and I didn't play him, and he smashed. So he's back. He played 34 minutes last night. It's on a back-to-back. He's currently projecting to be a 40% own, 4,200. I mean, look, if he's going to play 35 minutes, then it's pretty well deserved. I don't know if that's going to happen on a back-to-back, but for now, he's rating to be at least the top point per dollar play just alongside of Raul Neto on the slate. So definitely something we have to talk about. And then the Karl Anthony Towns rates to be one of the top plays. I might have him beneath Jokic, but 1,500 less, obviously. I probably have him a little bit better than Paul George, given the same price, similar prices. So I do like Cat. And then DeJounte Murray, I think is just going to have to get used to these prices, I guess. And if he's going to be only 10% owned at these prices, and maybe we should take a shot at him too. It's very interesting what they're doing. You know, they're jacking up the price of all the studs, and they're really not doing the same thing with the mid-range guys. I think maybe we are supposed to play the mid-range. I'm not sure. But given what he's been doing, I mean, he certainly has a ceiling, certainly has upside. But the value pieces for me are certainly, more Beverly, and we have to obviously talk through that. And obviously, what's his name? D'Angelo Russell, 7,400 seems a lot more palatable. Even Anthony Edwards, 7,700 seems pretty.
That's like
pretty
crazy.
Juicy, actually.
Yeah.
So what do you think? You like the 7,700 guys better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, the back-to-backs. So Patrick Beverly has played one back-to-back this season. He played 11. He had 11 fantasy points. Played like 20 minutes. They really don't need him to play. They could play him a bunch of minutes. They don't need him necessarily to. It's a little tricky. I don't know what to do with this one. The general like long-term strategy should probably be fading guys mostly in these situations.
All right.
But that means he has to be like nearly 50% owned for that to happen. And my guess is other things will come up throughout the day because it's a back-to-back. In fact, we might have players sitting in this game. Like, I mean, these guys just played. I don't know. I obviously Beverly projects really well. I obviously like him a little bit, and this is another game that it's very, very stackable.
Yeah.
But I think that I would like I'm open to taking some shots with like Jared Vanderbilt. Doesn't feel great. Jaden McDaniels probably I prefer that one a little more just because the minutes, but he just really it's kind of bleak. But Edwards is my favorite play on this side, followed by Russell, then Cat. Maybe Cat, then Russell. That's pretty close between those two. On the other side, I really like Drew Eubanks. He should have to play against Cat. Like, I don't think they're going to put Thaddeus Young on him. They might try a little bit of Keldon Johnson on him. That could be an interesting. And whoever does play against Cat, everybody knows I always have interest in that guy because he's going to leak everything. So I have Eubanks as my actual favorite play in this game, and that 24 minutes that he's projected for could easily become like closer to 30, and that's a pretty big deal. When you get those extra, people don't realize, like, Curry put up 63 the other night. People are like, oh yeah, he did all this. He took him all this on the Twitter to 63, and I'm like, well, he played 29 minutes. In 5 extra minutes, he probably would be at 80. You know what I mean?
Right.
The way he was going, I really like Lonnie Walker as an off the board play. His price is a little too cheap for. My only worry is he's not active he's not active enough. I think Derek White's the obvious play, but I think Walker and Vassell. I always want to try and take shots on these guys on smaller slates, but it doesn't feel overly encouraging when you look at the game logs. But at the same time, like we've seen the 30+ games from Vassell. We've seen Walker in that range this season. Keldon Johnson is an interesting, what I think is going to end up being fairly low owned, but it's a good matchup. And the guy who actually is popping for, in my mind, just because we're looking for value on this slate, and we probably are going to find better value where I'm not going to need to do this, but usually I don't like Doug McDermott when he plays minutes because everybody plays him. Back in the day. Now no one's really going to play him. And 3.8, he's starting. He's actually got the minutes that they're taking away from Walker and Vassell. Maybe that's the right thing to do, is to take a shot on Doug McDermott. It's a great matchup for a guy who could get hot. I mean, if he could make 5 threes. Boom, you're already there if he does that. And he's actually active enough as a player. And if you want to do the DeJounte Cat thing, or DeJounte and what's his name on the other side, I'm all for it. I would just recommend, even though that's Minnesota's, again, they're poor defensively in general. Patrick Beverly is, I don't know. DeJounte Murray is so active. It's so fun to watch him play. He's like my new my basketball crush. But Patrick Beverly he gets under certain guys' skins, and he could annoy him to that point. And Murray, I don't know. I just feel like there maybe that's a reason to try and justify not playing Murray, because I don't think we're going to get Murray at whatever it was, 6% the other night, 7%. I think he'll actually end up, people will talk about him throughout the day, and I think he'll end up popping more than a lot of these other studs will, for some people. And if he doesn't, I think we should go right back to him. But just looking for reasons to either play or fade guys. But I do like Murray, and I think that's so long and short. I for the Clippers, I'm sorry, for the Spurs, Eubank's my favorite. Derek White, my second favorite. Nothing unusual there. But I think Doug McDermott is interesting enough for me to take a shot on him. Keldon Johnson and DeJounte Murray. I think Murray is a really good spend up. I'm going to consider maybe playing Murray as my top spend player. I like what you said about staying in that mid tier, because it does seem like that's the one range that's not really getting touched as much. And all these other guys, get priced up so high. It's like, but you could still build a good roster around them. So it's just a matter of how you want to build. And of course, after saying all that, you could just go to DeJounte and Cat on the other side. But I personally side with Edwards. All right, Philly and Denver. You want to start us off?
Yeah, I mean it's so funny. I mean, like every roster is just freaking decimated. It's just brutal. It's just brutal. So anyway, Jokic is probably the best play. It's best I can describe this. And he's 12K, but I mean he's got Andre Drummond defense. That's certainly nothing great. So I do like that. And then we have to I don't know, talk about some of the value over here. I mean, who's still out for Denver? I mean, let's do this. Jokic, and as far as spend ups go, nobody else. When it comes to spend downs a little bit, Aaron Gordon at 5,300. That looks to be, I guess, okay. You have Will Barton, who's questionable, right? We don't know what's going to happen with him. So now we're talking about Boris Highland also.
I have Will Barton projected out.
Oh, well, there you go. So that's why I have Bones Highland probably projected at 5.5x, right? Among other reasons. Bones Highland, 3,400. Aaron Gordon. Monty Morris, is he back? Okay, that's something. Boy, what a terrible thing. Austin Rivers, 3,300. I don't know. I'm just kind of inclined to play Jokic here if I can get him in. I don't know what I'm going to do on the Philly side. Probably nothing.
Yeah, I really, so I have it rated. Jokic does seem like the best, safest spend up on the board. Has to do everything. It's really hard for me to not, to see, like, if I was just going to build one lineup, I probably would have Jokic in it, unless only an argument against him is just that he's going to be popular. And we could do other things. We have other options on this slate, which we talked through, Steph and Murray and Cat and all that stuff. But I really like Monty Morris here. I'm just going to say, like, Aaron Gordon is going to depend on what his ownership is. Like, it's just too ridiculous how many good situations this guy is. And he does it like 1 out of 10 games, even when the situation is perfect for him. So I don't know, man. I don't feel good about playing Aaron Gordon, but I'm probably going to have him, like, and he's certainly on my list, but I don't know. I just feels like if he gets super chalky again, I think that maybe that's the guy I could leave out here. I think Morris would be my favorite with Jokic. Jeff Green's playing a bunch of minutes, but I don't feel great about that. I actually think I think it's okay, but I think it's the same thing as if you're going to play Austin Rivers. Like, you just know what you're getting in for. I don't think Bones Highland is viable. I mean, he could always get going, but like, it's just a complete dart throw with Bones Highland. Like, he might have 0 fantasy points tonight. Like,
what's the spread of this game? Like 10?
No, because it's only 7 because Denver's missing.
Denver's injured.
Yeah. And on the Philly side, I want to do something, man. I don't know why Korkmaz is projecting so poorly. This guy in a blowout played 34 minutes. Am I missing another guy who's back that I don't have? Because I think the projections are a little messed up. Both Seth Curry and Korkmaz feel like they should be projected for both more production and more minutes. So I actually think Curry and Korkmaz would be my favorites. Denver's been really good defensively this year. It's shocking to say that out loud. But yeah, I think it's Curry and Korkmaz for me. That's pretty much it.
Yep.
I do think that Milton, again, if he starts, I can include him in that same mix. I don't think I'm going to get to Tyrese Maxey, but I don't think it's a terrible play either.
So I wanted to just update you on something. And another way that you can actually use this is, again, every day we're working on the optimize just a little bit more. And if you get at it from premium tools, like one thing you can do is like you uploaded like my most current sheets to here, and it'll just generate the most current optimal, and it'll give you an idea of like where people are going, right? Because my sheets is basically a collection of what the industry likes, as far as projections go. So when we talk about, what type of builds are going to be out there, this gives you a good idea, at least, of where we're going. And the next thing that's going to be added, by the way, is hopefully, if Evan gets to it, is what the projected ownership of like a lineup like this would look like.
Ooh, that's really
so
cool.
To give you an idea that like, okay, you could play this and it's the optimal, but it's going to be 300% total ownership. Probably not going to want to play it in GPPs, and that's going to be that's why I wanted to get on this, to give it, so when you run these lineups, it'll tell you what the projected ownerships of the lineups that you're running are. And for the GPP players we have out there, I think it's really important. But it's not surprising to see like Russell, Edwards, these guys in an optimal, because again, you're not going to play two studs when they're both 12K nowadays.
Right.
Okay, you want to finish?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Utah?
Yeah, go for it. Do you want to start talking?
Yeah. So unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't think I have anything. I mean, I have Gobert at 8K. And that's it. You like anything stand out for you here?
Well, there's serious question marks on Anunoby, Boucher, and Precious. That would.
Oh, okay. I didn't even get that.
Yeah, that would completely flip the slate around. So unfortunately we have the last game. So we'll see if we can get some information on that beforehand. That would open up a guy like Ken Birch would probably get a lot of minutes tonight. Siakam would be a good play. I'm not getting too much on the Toronto side, to be honest with you. And as it's just dangerous going into Utah to play that team this season. It is going to be an interesting matchup because if they're healthy-ish, if these guys play, the Precious and Anunoby especially, it's Utah, trying to move the ball around and shoot the threes and everything. But you've got like the best switchable defenders with tons of length. So I'm kind of curious how this game works out. I think Utah is a pretty good bet to control the game, but it's kind of hard for me to. I'm trying to figure out what I would do if I did anything on the Toronto side. I don't think it's like one guy would have to keep him in it. I'm a little bit interested in Siakam and a little bit interested in Van Vliet, but I don't think I'm going to end up doing it. I really like some plays on the other side though, so I'm a little bit annoyed. I love Gobert. I think it's a great time to use him, especially if any of those guys are out. Ken Birch actually might even be a worse matchup for him. So maybe if only like one of them are out. Precious is fine and everything, but I mean, these guys, I'm just telling you, like, I almost called his exact line the other night. I said, what's the worst he's going to get you tonight? And even in a blowout, I expect him to get 15 and 15. He had 15 and 17. So it's pretty close to what I said. He also had 4 nice little blocks to go with it. So love Gobert tonight. If you're doing that middling build, Gobert, like with the Edwards, you know what I mean? And those guys, they really make a lot of sense to me. So Gobert as a pivot or in addition to Jokic. And then if I really thought this game is going to be really close and fighting hard back and forth, I would be open to Donovan Mitchell, but it's a little bit pricey. He certainly has a ceiling. I'm going to go back to it again. Look, I know he won't shoot the ball. He doesn't do a lot of exciting things. He's going to get steals. He's going to get blocks. He's going to get rebounds. If he just scores 10 real life points, he's probably getting 30 plus fantasy points. And that's a big if, but he's done it a number of times this season. And he's been close a number of times this season to it. Royce O'Neal is my off the board guy. And I hate to keep reusing him, but it's it's 4,400. If the game is close, he'll play like 36 minutes. If it's not close, he'll play like 30, 28 maybe. I don't know. But I like the idea of playing Royce O'Neal as a very, very low owned, depending on what happens with the other injury situations. Like if Terrence Mann's out, that's going to make Kennard probably a better play, but everybody's going to do that. So I might just play them together like I did the other night. And even, his downside is occasionally you'll get the 10 fantasy point game, but he's too active for that anymore. He's always usually, I mean, other than a couple games, in the 20s to 30, his 36 range. So I just think Royce O'Neal is a good off the board play to use in this kind of weird little slate. That's what I got. All right. Do you want quick highlights? I think you want to try and target the Clippers, Memphis, and I think the San Antonio game is also San Antonio, Minnesota game is interesting. I think that Gobert, Jokic, Murray, Morris, those are the guys who still have to be one of Kennard or Mann, depending on if Mann's in, it's probably Mann. I like Zubac. I like Bain. I do like Beverly and Edwards, but I don't know if I'm going to end up playing the Beverly because of the ownership. And then one of Holiday or Neto is going to be probably in my lineup. So I want to go back to one other thing. If you don't play, so no one is going to play Jared Allen because people are going to play Jokic or Gobert and I like Eubanks as well.
Right.
But Jared Allen, this is at no ownership. It's just kind of interesting to me. Now, it's interesting also how he'll stay on the court against this team. It's kind of a weird matchup for him. And the minutes, were down a little bit in his recent games that he did play in some funny matchups. But I could see him. The flip side of it is I could see him with like 20 rebounds. So
right.
And then the Rubio Garland thing, I'm open to both of it, but I don't know if I need to do it on this slate. So that's what I got.
All right, we'll be there at 6:30, right?
Yeah.
Tonight?
6:30.
So we'll be there at 6:30, unless I pass out. In either case, someone will be there at 6:30, and we'll be back with a showdown slate, with the NFL showdown slate video.
Sounds good. So, sorry, man. Sorry you're not feeling well. All right. Good luck, everybody.